The forest world called Meridia 9 looked peaceful from space, but the humans who walked on its surface felt something different. There was beauty everywhere, soft glowing plants, tall trees with silver leaves, and giant mushrooms spreading warm orange light. But behind this beauty, something moved, something fast, something watching. Captain Rowan felt it before he saw anything. His boots sank slightly into the soft ground as he led his team through thick vines and shadows. He kept his weapon ready, even though their mission was only to study new life on the planet. He did not tell his team, but he had already noticed broken branches, claw marks, and strange tracks. At first, everyone believed the planet only had small animals and harmless scavengers. A creature similar to a honey badger lived here too, but reports described it as no threat at all. Many laughed at the idea of danger. But Rowan did not laugh. The jungle was too quiet, as if something powerful controlled the land. Private Lion walked behind him and stopped suddenly. Her eyes followed a set of deep scratches on a giant tree. They were large, too large for a small scavenger animal. When she touched the bark, it crumbled in her hand, showing how much force was used. Something strong had done this. Rowan stared at the marks longer than he planned. The shape was familiar, but the size was not. Honey badgers on Earth were small but fierce. Here, something similar existed but much bigger. They kept walking until they reached a clearing where the ground looked torn apart. Dirt was thrown everywhere, plants were crushed, and something heavy had moved through recently. Corporal Reed bent down and picked up a broken drone part. It belonged to an alien machine, not human technology. Reed looked at the captain with concern. "Sir, whatever did this took down a scouting drone, and not gently." Rowan knew something had attacked the drone and ripped it open like paper. But if the aliens were here, that meant trouble. A rival species called the Valans had been seen near Meridia 9 weeks ago. They were known for hunting planets with valuable resources. If they found something useful on this world, they would try to take it by force. A sudden roar echoed through the trees. Everyone froze. It was not a roar of a big animal. It sounded angry, fast, and full of challenge. Lion's hands shook, but Rowan signaled them to stay low. They moved carefully through vines until they reached a small ridge overlooking another clearing. What they saw shocked them. 3 Valan soldiers stood in the center, pointing weapons into the bushes. But they were not shooting, they looked scared. A second roar came from the shadows. Then a creature jumped out. It looked like a honey badger, but larger, stronger, and with glowing red eyes full of fury. Its claws were sharp, its fur thick, and small metallic implants shined on its back. It moved quickly, too quickly, striking a Valan soldier and throwing him across the clearing. Another honey badger darted out and bit into an alien weapon, snapping it in half. The Valans fired wildly, but the creatures dodged every shot, using the forest as cover. Rowan had never seen such speed or power. These were not simple scavengers. These were warriors. The fight ended in seconds. The aliens fell to the ground, defeated and silent. The honey badgers stood over them, breathing hard. Then, as if sensing the humans, they turned. Their glowing eyes scanned the ridge. Rowan felt a chill run through him. For a moment, the forest stopped moving. Time felt slow. The honey badgers stared at the humans not with fear, but with deep awareness, almost intelligence. They did not attack. Instead, they growled once and disappeared into the bushes as fast as they came, leaving only moving leaves behind. Reed whispered, "Sir, what was that?" They looked like honey badgers, but not normal, Rowan finished quietly. Not scavengers, something else. He began to understand why the jungle felt alive and dangerous. These creatures ruled it. They were protectors, not prey. They fought aliens without hesitation, without fear. They used teamwork and speed like trained soldiers. When he walked back to camp, Rowan kept thinking about the way the honey badgers looked at him. It was not the eyes of a simple animal. It was something more, something that made him uneasy. Hours later, the humans received a warning from orbit. Valan ships were approaching the planet. A full attack was coming. Rowan realized something important. The humans were not the only ones preparing for war. The honey badgers were too. Something big was happening on Meridia 9, and humans were only starting to understand the truth. The night on Meridia 9 came suddenly, covering the jungle in deep blue shadows. Strange glowing insects floated between the trees, and the sound of distant creatures filled the air. Captain Rowan could not sleep. He sat inside the temporary camp, watching the forest line through a clear shield window. Every movement made his heart beat faster. The honey badgers he had seen earlier stayed inside his mind, sharp and unforgettable. Reed walked in quietly and placed a warm drink on the table. "You really think they will come here?" he asked. Rowan shook his head. I don't know what to think. They attacked the Valans, not us, but they looked straight at us, like they were judging us. Reed let out a small laugh. They looked like demons with glowing eyes, Captain. If they wanted to attack us, we would all be dead. Rowan knew that was true. Those creatures were fast and fearless. If they wanted something, nothing could stop them. But something about their behavior felt controlled, almost strategic. Animals do not normally fight in coordinated movements. These creatures did. Before Rowan could speak again, something hit the outer fence of the camp. A loud metallic slam echoed across the area. Alarms flashed red. Lion ran inside, panic on her face. Sir, we have movement, many heat signatures around the west side. Rowan grabbed his weapon. The soldiers rushed outside and formed a defensive line. Fog drifted near the ground, glowing a little from the electric lights. The fence flickered again. Something was pushing against it. Then the shapes appeared. At first, they looked like shadows low to the ground, moving quickly. The soldiers aimed their weapons, but Rowan shouted, "Hold fire." The shadows stepped into the light. It was the honey badgers, but this time there were more, at least 10. Their eyes glowed softly, but they did not look angry. They stood in a semicircle facing the humans, watching silently. Rowan could feel the tension. The soldiers gripped their weapons tightly, unsure if they were about to be attacked or spared. One honey badger stepped forward. It was the same one Rowan had seen fighting the Valans. Its fur had darker marks, and its cybernetic implants were more advanced. It stared at Rowan with a strange calmness. It made a short growling sound, not threatening but more like communication. Rowan slowly lowered his weapon. Reed whispered, "Sir, what are you doing?" "They came here without attacking," Rowan said quietly. "They want something." The lead honey badger turned and looked at the jungle, then looked back at Rowan. It gave a stronger growl, then took a few steps away, waiting. Lion spoke softly. I think it wants us to follow." Rowan knew it was risky, but the creatures had just fought Valan soldiers earlier. They were not the enemy, and something was happening on this planet, something bigger than humans understood. He nodded. "We follow, no sudden moves." The team moved forward carefully. The honey badgers watched them, then began walking deeper into the forest, guiding them. Their movements were silent, smooth, and purposeful. It was clear they knew this jungle better than anything else alive. After several minutes, the trees opened into a wide area. Rowan stopped in shock. A Valan ship lay broken in the middle of the clearing. Smoke rose from its shattered hull. Alien bodies were scattered around, each one clearly defeated by the honey badgers. But this was not just a fight. This was a warning. The honey badgers had destroyed this landing ship before the Valans could deploy a full force. Rowan stepped closer to a fallen Valan soldier. The armor was damaged in clean, sharp strikes. These were not random attacks. They were precise hits aimed to disable quickly. Reed exhaled slowly. "Sir, these things fight like trained soldiers." Rowan nodded, and they knew we needed to see this. The lead honey badger growled softly again and moved toward the broken ship. It scratched the ground near a metallic crate. Rowan opened the crate carefully and found alien weapons inside. Advanced plasma launchers, far stronger than standard Valan gear. "Why show us this?" Lion asked quietly. Rowan answered, "Because the Valans are preparing for a big attack, and these creatures know it." He looked at the honey badgers again. They stared back with intensity, as if begging the humans to understand. Meridian 9 was their home. The Valans wanted to take it, and these creatures were willing to fight with everything they had. But Rowan also sensed something deeper. The honey badgers were not just strong. They were organized. Their implants were not random. Someone had enhanced them, someone intelligent. Suddenly, the growl of engines echoed above the trees. Everyone looked up. A Valan dropship flew across the sky, scanning the ground with bright beams. It stopped above the clearing for a moment, then fired a signal flare, red and bright. Reed cursed. "They saw us, they saw the badgers too." Rowan felt his stomach tighten. More Valan ships would come soon. This was not a small scouting mission anymore. This was war. The lead honey badger made a sharp sound and ran toward the trees. The others followed instantly. Rowan understood they were telling the humans to move. Now. The team ran after them as the dropship fired warning shots into the forest. Explosions lit the night sky. The honey badgers guided the humans through hidden paths, narrow trails, and tunnels formed by giant roots. The creatures moved with perfect confidence, never hesitating. Rowan realized something important. The honey badgers knew every inch of the land. They were the true defenders of this world, and humans needed them. When they finally stopped near a dark cave entrance, Rowan breathed hard. The honey badgers turned to face him. One of them stepped closer, its eyes glowing gently. It touched Rowan's boot with its claw, not scratching but signaling. Rowan understood. These creatures were not monsters. They were asking for help. They were ready to fight with humans, not against them. The Valans thought honey badgers were only scavengers, but humans were now learning the truth. They were warriors, and the forest was rising with them. The cave entrance stood wide and dark, like a mouth waiting to swallow anything that stepped inside. Captain Rowan hesitated for a moment. He could hear distant explosions far behind them, Valan ships firing into the forest. Time was running out, and the honey badgers seemed to know it. The lead creature gave a low grunt and walked into the cave with confidence. The humans followed carefully, their flashlights creating small circles of light on the stone walls. Inside, the air was cool and quiet. Strange, glowing vines wrapped around the ceiling, giving the cave a soft blue color. As the humans moved deeper, Rowan noticed patterns on the walls, claw marks, symbols, shapes made from stone. They were not random. They looked like messages, old messages. Lion pointed at a section of the wall. "Sir, this looks like writing." Reed shook his head. "They're animals, they couldn't have written this." But Rowan felt unsure. The symbols were too organized, almost like a story. And the honey badgers moved around the cave with a calm familiarity, as if the place held history. The largest honey badger stopped at a wide chamber. It made 3 sharp sounds, and more creatures stepped out from the shadows. There were at least 20 of them now, young ones, older ones, all watching the humans. Their red eyes reflected the cave light, but the anger Rowan saw earlier was gone. Now they looked curious, alert, almost welcoming. Rowan raised his hands slowly. "We don't want to hurt you. We know you're trying to protect your world." The lead honey badger approached him. It had a metal band around its neck, connected to small implants on its shoulders. Rowan noticed tiny lights blinking inside the metal, technology far more advanced than Earth expected from simple wildlife. The creature tapped its claw against a small stone panel on the wall. The panel lit up. A hologram appeared in the air, faint, flickering, but clear enough to understand. Rowan's eyes widened. The hologram showed a group of tall humanoid beings working with creatures that looked like the honey badgers. They wore long robes and had glowing symbols on their arms. They were teaching the animals, implanting technology, guiding them. Then the scene changed. The Valans arrived. Explosions, fire, destruction. The tall beings tried to defend the world but were overpowered. Before dying, they placed the honey badgers inside protected caves, adding cybernetic upgrades so they could survive without them. Lion whispered, "Sir, the honey badgers were created to protect the planet." Rowan nodded slowly. "They are not scavengers, they are guardians." The hologram faded, and the cave became quiet again. Rowan looked at the lead honey badger with new respect. He spoke softly. "We understand now. You want us to help stop the Valans." The honey badger gave a strong nod. It raised its head and growled, a deep, powerful sound that echoed like a call to war. The other honey badgers answered with their own cries, filling the cave with fierce energy. But Rowan knew something important. "We cannot win without a plan," he said. "We need to know how many Valan ships are coming. We need to know the weak point in their attack." Reed stepped closer. "Sir, our scanners are limited. We need a high point or a clear signal area to contact the main ship in orbit." The honey badgers seemed to understand the word ship. The lead one pointed with its claw toward a smaller tunnel. Rowan narrowed his eyes. "You want us to follow again?" The creature nodded. They moved through the tunnel, which grew narrow, twisting like a maze. The honey badgers moved easily, but the humans struggled at times, carrying heavy gear. After several minutes, they reached a large cliff that opened into the night sky. From the edge, the view was wide and shocking. Valan forces were everywhere. Dozens of dropships flew toward the forest, landing troops in formation. Heavy walkers marched through the trees, cutting down anything in their path. At the center of the formation stood a massive command ship with glowing wings of blue energy. Rowan clenched his jaw. "This is not an invasion. This is extermination. They want the planet empty." Lion raised her scanner and checked readings. "Sir, their energy output is high. They're powering something big, maybe a terraforming device." Rowan cursed softly. "If they activate that, the forest will die. And everything living here will die with it." The honey badgers growled, their claws digging into the stone. They knew what was coming. Their instincts told them the planet was in danger. Rowan looked at them with new determination. "We'll fight with you." But we need communication with our ship. Reed lifted a small antenna device. If we can climb that ridge, I can send a message. The ridge was steep and dangerous, covered in vines and sharp rocks. But there was no time to hesitate. The humans began climbing while the honey badgers moved along the side, guiding them to safer spots. Their agility impressed Rowan. Even the smallest could leap across gaps with ease. At the top, Reed activated the antenna. Signal rising, almost there, got it. A voice came through the radio, Commander Hale from orbit. Captain Rowan, we detected Valen activity. What is your status? Rowan took a deep breath. We have information. The Valans are preparing a full planetary takeover. They have a command ship on the surface. We need reinforcements. There's more, Lion added quickly. We discovered native creatures, modified honey badgers. They are defending the world. They want to help us. There was a long silence. Finally, Hale responded. Are you saying honey badgers are part of your team now? Rowan looked at the lead creature beside him. Its eyes glowed with fierce purpose. Yes, Rowan said firmly. They are our allies. Before Hale could answer, a Valan fighter swooped from the sky and fired at the ridge. The humans and honey badgers dove for cover. The blast shook the rocks. Reed yelled, they're targeting the signal. Another shot hit closer. The ridge began cracking. Rowan shouted, move, get off the ridge. As the group scrambled down, the ground split open behind them. Rocks fell. The honey badgers leaped down quickly, helping guide the soldiers. Rowan felt the heat of another blast behind him. The Valan ships were closing in. But when they reached the bottom, the honey badgers stood ready, forming a protective circle around the humans. Their growls filled the forest. Their claws shined in the dim light. Rowan breathed hard. He knew what Part 3 had led them to. Humans and honey badgers would stand together because the war had already begun. The forest was no longer quiet. The ground shook with every Valan walker step, and bright flashes of blue light moved across the sky as enemy ships searched for targets. Captain Rowan and his team stayed close to the honey badgers as they reached a dense part of the jungle. The trees here formed high walls and giant leaves blocked much of the sky. It felt like the forest was hiding them on purpose. Rowan studied the honey badgers carefully. They moved with purpose. Every turn, every pause, every signal had meaning. The humans followed, trusting them now more than ever. The lead honey badger stopped suddenly and sniffed the air. Its fur rose slightly. It tapped the ground twice with its claws. Rowan whispered, that means danger. Reed adjusted his weapon. Sir, danger is everywhere. But Rowan sensed something else. This was very close danger. The honey badgers formed a wide line and crouched low. Their red eyes glowed brighter. A sudden rustle came from the bushes. Then a Valan patrol unit marched into the clearing. There were 6 alien soldiers, each holding plasma rifles. Their tall frames were covered in dark armor, and their helmets had glowing blue lines shaped like angry eyes. One soldier lifted a scanner. Unknown life signatures detected. Rowan held his breath. The honey badgers stayed still, ready to pounce. The scanner beeped faster. The Valan soldier spoke sharply, weapons up. We have hostiles. Before he could finish, one honey badger burst from the bushes with incredible speed. It leaped at the nearest alien and slammed into him so hard the alien fell backward. The creature roared loud enough to echo through the trees. 4 more honey badgers attacked from the sides, biting weapons, clawing armor, and knocking the aliens down. The Valans fired wildly, but the creatures moved like shadows. Rowan raised his weapon. Support them, now. The humans fired controlled shots, striking alien weapons and armor joints. Lion threw a flash grenade into the center of the patrol. The light exploded in a bright burst, blinding the aliens temporarily. The honey badgers used that moment to finish the fight. In seconds, the patrol was defeated. Rowan looked around. The honey badgers stood alert but unharmed. He felt a strange sense of pride for them, as if they were part of his own squad. Reed whispered, Sir, I think they're better soldiers than we are. Rowan smiled slightly. Maybe, but they need us too. Before anyone could rest, a deep rumble rolled across the forest floor. The honey badgers turned toward the sound. Rowan's face tightened. He knew that sound, heavy machinery. The Valan walkers were coming. These machines stood on 4 metal legs, tall as trees, with cannons mounted on their backs. They fired plasma shots strong enough to melt stone. Rowan checked his scanner. 3 walkers were approaching, and behind them a full squad of soldiers. The lead honey badger screeched loudly and began running. The humans followed immediately. They reached a large grove where the trees formed thick natural barriers. At the center was a wide pool of glowing water. Rowan did not know what the water was, but it looked alive. The honey badgers gathered around the pool. One of them dipped its paw into the water. A bright pattern spread through the liquid, lighting up like a signal. Rowan frowned. What are they doing? Lion focused on the glowing pool. I think they're calling the forest. Rowan didn't understand until the ground vibrated. Roots began to move. Thick vines rose from the soil like serpents waking from sleep. The forest itself was responding. The Valen walkers entered the grove, metal legs crushing plants under them. Their cannons charged with the air in the grove felt heavier than before. Smoke drifted slowly between the glowing trees, and the quiet moments after the battle almost felt unreal. But Captain Rowan knew the silence was only a brief gift. The real storm was still coming. Reed's scanner continued to beep with warning signals. The Valen army was moving fast, spreading through the forest in a huge formation. They were sweeping across the land like a wave of destruction. Rowan looked toward the honey badgers. They were gathering together in a circle, growling in short, sharp tones. It sounded like planning. It sounded like preparation. Even though they could not speak human language, their actions were clear. They were getting ready for the largest fight of their lives. Lion stepped beside Rowan. Sir, they're brave, but 20 dropships, tanks, walkers, we don't have enough people to hold them back. Rowan nodded slowly. I know, but we're not alone. These creatures have the forest, they have speed, they have instinct, and they have a reason to fight. Reed sighed. Still, we need a plan, a real plan. Rowan looked around the grove, the strange glowing pool, the moving vines, the thick trees that rose like walls. The forest was alive and powerful, but the Valans were strong too, and their machines were built for war. Rowan closed his eyes for a moment, thinking deeply. They needed to strike the Valans where it hurt most. He opened his eyes. The command ship, he said softly. If we destroy the command ship, the others lose control. Their machines will slow down. Their communication will break. Their invasion plan will collapse. Lion nodded slowly. Yes, their whole army relies on that ship. If we hit it hard, the rest becomes confused. Reed frowned. But the command ship is surrounded by soldiers, and it's heavily armored. How do we get close enough without getting killed? Rowan turned toward the honey badgers. The lead creature approached him, sensing the seriousness in his tone. Rowan knelt down, meeting the red glowing eyes directly. We need your help again, Rowan said softly. We need to reach the big ship. We need to stop the Valans from destroying your world. The honey badger tapped its chest with one claw. Then it touched Rowan's boot gently, as if saying they would stand together until the end. Rowan felt something warm inside his chest, a shared courage, a shared purpose. The lead creature growled loudly, and the pack responded. Some honey badgers spread out into the trees. Others sharpened their claws on rocks. Some sniffed the air, mapping the enemy movement. They prepared like they had done this many times before. Rowan stood tall. We move before dawn. They won't expect a direct attack. The humans and honey badgers began moving through the forest quietly. Every step was careful. Every breath was soft. They traveled deep into the heart of Meridian 9, following hidden routes the honey badgers knew well. As they walked, Rowan noticed strange plant pods along the path, pods that pulsed with energy. Honey badgers nudged some open, showing glowing seeds inside. Lion studied one. These are not seeds, these are explosive spores. Rowan raised an eyebrow. Explosive. Lion nodded. If thrown hard or heated, they burst with strong force. The honey badgers want us to use them. The creatures seemed to understand her words. One honey badger dropped a spore gently at Rowan's feet. Its eyes gleamed with expectation. Rowan picked it up carefully. All right, these will help. Hours passed. The closer they came to the Valan command ship, the louder the sounds of war became. Explosions shook the ground. Plasma fire lit the treetops. The smell of burning metal and crushed plants filled the air. Finally, they saw it, the command ship. It stood like a dark mountain in the center of a destroyed valley. A large open platform extended from the front where officers barked orders at troops. Walkers marched at the edges. Tanks rolled across the ground, flattening everything in their way. Lion swallowed hard. Sir, this is too much. How do we get close? Rowan scanned the area. Not head-on. The honey badgers will create chaos. We slip through the confusion. Reed, you will carry the explosive charge. When we reach the underside of the command platform, we plant it and run. Reed nodded, and pray it works. Rowan smiled faintly. It has to. The honey badgers spread out. Their glowing eyes moved silently through the shadows. Rowan signaled his team, "Get ready." A moment later, a loud roar echoed across the field. A honey badger leaped from the trees and attacked a patrol. Plasma shots flew, alarms blared, and soldiers shouted. Another honey badger jumped onto a tank, tearing off wires. A third clawed at a walker's leg, causing it to stumble. Chaos spread fast. The Valans tried to take control, but the honey badgers moved quicker than any plan. Their attacks came from every direction, confusing the soldiers. The machines fired wildly, missing targets and damaging each other. Rowan and his team used the distraction to run downhill toward the platform. Smoke covered them. Noise drowned their footsteps. They moved like ghosts through the battlefield. They reached the bottom of the command ship, hiding behind a pile of broken machinery. Above them, alien officers shouted angrily. The ship hummed with deep power. Reed took out the explosive charge. "Sir, once I set this, we'll have maybe 20 seconds. Rowan nodded. "Do it." Reed crawled underneath the platform. He attached the charge to the main power column, a tall metal pillar with glowing veins. The moment the device clicked into place, a sharp alarm beeped. Lion whispered urgently, "They detected us." Rowan pulled Reed back. "Run." They sprinted away just as Valan soldiers spotted them. Plasma bolts hit the ground near their feet. The honey badgers saw the danger and rushed in, attacking the soldiers to buy time. The charge began to beep faster. Rowan shouted, "Move," all the way back. The ground rumbled. The air grew hot. Then the explosion came. A giant burst of light shot upward. Fire tore through the platform. Officers flew backward. The power column shattered and the command ship shook violently. Its blue energy wings flickered, then shut down. The ship began to fall, crashing into the valley floor with a roar that shook the entire forest. Soldiers panicked. Machines powered down. Tanks stopped moving. The Valan army was collapsing. Rowan knelt down, breathing hard. The honey badgers around him growled triumphantly. Some were injured, but they stood tall. They had won the most important strike. But Rowan knew the war was not over yet. The Valans would fight with whatever forces they had left. The final battle was coming soon, and the fate of Meridia 9 would be decided in a single, last stand. The explosion from the fallen command ship continued to echo across Meridia 9 long after the flames faded. Smoke rose slowly into the sky, turning the air heavy and dark. Captain Rowan stood on a patch of scorched ground, trying to catch his breath. His team stayed close, exhausted but alive. Around them, honey badgers limped, growled, or stood tall with burning eyes. They had fought with unbelievable courage, but Rowan knew the Valans were not finished yet. Lion checked her scanner. "Sir, there are still soldiers out there. Many are injured, but some units are regrouping. They're planning one last attack." Reed wiped sweat from his forehead. After losing their command ship, they must be desperate. Rowan nodded. Desperate enemies can be the most dangerous. The honey badgers gathered near a mound of broken metal, examining the area. Their leader, the one with the strongest cybernetic implants, approached Rowan and tapped the ground with its claw. It made a low growl that carried a serious tone. Rowan understood they expected another battle. A final one. The humans followed as the honey badgers led them toward the heart of the forest. To Rowan's surprise, the deeper they went, the brighter the trees glowed. Strange energy flowed through the vines and the soil. Lion touched a glowing leaf and whispered, "The forest is healing itself." Rowan frowned, or preparing for something. They entered a wide clearing, unlike anything they had seen before. The ground was smooth, covered in soft blue moss. Large circular stones stood upright in a perfect ring, old and carved with ancient symbols. The air felt warm and peaceful. Even the honey badgers moved carefully here, as if walking into a sacred place. Reed looked around in awe. "What is this place?" Lion answered softly, "I think this is where the Guardians were created." Rowan felt a deep respect forming inside him. The honey badgers were not just wild creatures of the jungle. They were protectors designed by an ancient race to defend Meridia 9. This place was their heart, their memory, their purpose. Suddenly the ground shook. A distant engine roared, growing louder each second. The Valans were coming closer. Rowan's face hardened. This is it. They want to destroy the center of the forest. Lion tightened her grip on her weapon. They think if they destroy this place, the planet becomes theirs. Reed whispered, "Then we cannot let them reach here." The honey badgers formed a wide circle around the stone ring. Their eyes glowed bright red. Their bodies stood ready, strong despite injuries. Rowan felt something rise inside him, a sense of unity, something powerful and real. The final Valen attack force broke through the trees. Soldiers, a few damaged walkers, and several heavy tanks rolled forward. Their leader, a tall Valen officer, shouted commands in a harsh metallic voice. The aliens aimed their weapons toward the sacred clearing. Rowan stood beside the honey badger leader and raised his voice. "We protect this place, no matter what." The honey badgers roared together, filling the clearing with fierce sound. The Valans charged. The battle struck fast and violently. Plasma bolts ripped through the air, trees shattered and fell. Rowan guided his team to defensive positions behind the stone pillars. Reed fired precise shots at tank joints while Lion tossed explosive spores, causing bursts of bright green fire. Honey badgers rushed across the battlefield like living storms. They tore apart soldiers, leaped onto walkers, and dragged aliens from hiding places. Their movements were unstoppable. Rowan watched one small honey badger jump onto a tank barrel and bite down until sparks flew, disabling the weapon. But the Valans fought hard too. Plasma fire hit the ground near Rowan's feet, throwing him backward. A walker aimed its cannon at the stone ring. Rowan shouted, "Stop it, don't let them fire." Before the walker could shoot, 3 honey badgers leaped onto its back, ripping open wires and panels. The walker shook wildly, then collapsed. The Valan troops roared angrily and pushed forward again. Rowan felt fear rise as he saw a large group of soldiers getting close to the stone ring. "We're losing ground," Reed shouted, then something unexpected happened. The stone ring began to glow. Soft blue light spread from the ground, moving through the stones, through the moss, through the air. The wind grew warm. The honey badgers stopped fighting for a moment and lifted their heads. Their implants glowed brighter, matching the color of the stones. Lion gasped. "The forest, it's waking up." A wave of energy burst from the stone circle, spreading across the clearing like a silent explosion. It passed through the honey badgers gently, giving them strength. But when the wave touched the Valans, it threw them backward as if hit by a giant force. Walkers fell, tanks stalled, soldiers dropped their weapons. The honey badgers roared again, louder than before. Rowan felt the sound inside his chest. The creatures charged forward with new power, striking down the remaining Valans quickly and fiercely. One by one, the aliens fell. Their machines shut down. Their weapons went silent. The invasion ended not with human victory alone,